Rex Ryan just got completely embarrassed after Shedeur Sanders flipped the script on his critics. That viral miming moment everyone tried to clown? It wasn't arrogance, it was a statement. Shedeur just exposed the media's double standard on live TV, and now fans are saying Rex Ryan owes him an apology.
Look at Shedeur.
This is exactly why I hate the media.
Oh, the media is to blame?
That's what I'm talking about. They always try to
fans
pin,
are to blame.
They trying to pin people against each other. This is ridiculous.
You guys don't. If you guys don't listen to rap music, you will never understand. Like, you know, they're like, is so and so dissing someone? You're like, no, them is just regular bars. These are regular bars.
Well, wait a second, Tyvus. How is the media to blame for this?
Who said that they put this was a shot at Shedeur?
Yeah, who was saying this, Mike?
I'll find a million Twitter accounts.
Were there
right
any
now.
media members saying this?
No, most. I think one did. I think Acho did, but
Rex Ryan just got absolutely torched, and he doesn't even realize it yet. Shedeur Sanders didn't fire back with words. He did something way more savage. While the entire NFL media tried to pin him against Dillon Gabriel and question his work ethic, Shedeur walked into that press conference and literally mimed his answers. No words, just mouth movements. And you know what? It exposed the entire game the media's been playing with this kid since draft night. But here's the twist nobody's talking about. The same people calling him cocky and lazy are the same ones who can't stop putting his face on every thumbnail because they know his name gets clicks. The hypocrisy just got called out in the most brutal way possible. And we're about to break down exactly why Rex Ryan and these media clowns just took the biggest L of the season.
was named the starter. Dillon then had his press conference before the team left to Berea, and he had a quote, which we're going to play for you in a second, that a lot of people thought was a shot at Shedeur Sanders. And I'm curious if you guys understand what it was. And then Shedeur spoke to the media afterwards.
No.
We're going to play you both Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, and then we'll figure out if this is something or if this is a giant ball and nothing. But here's Dillon Gabriel first, and then Shedeur Sanders second.
I think it's funny because, I got a text from a good buddy of mine.
The phrase was fortune favors the bold, okay? So now we're in a position where that conversion or perversion is where we are with today's athletes, okay? Some come in, don't say a word, just get to business and let the business speak. Kawhi Leonard comes to mind. And then there's some guys who are like, let me tell you I'm coming. And when I show up, I'm going to be even better than you thought. Deion Sanders comes to mind. And as a matter of fact, Rex Ryan actually comes to mind in his lane of being a coach/analyst. So I think what he was trying to say is you're going to make your job a lot harder, Shedeur, by talking that talk.
So let's set the scene because this whole thing is wild. The Cleveland Browns just announced Dillon Gabriel as their starting quarterback. Now, Dillon's earned it. Nobody's disputing that. The man put in work, studied the playbook, and Kevin Stefanski made his call. That's football. That's how it works. But here's where things get spicy.
What it is. So if you guys didn't know, we'll break it down for you as the world turns in the world of Cleveland Browns and quarterbacks. So Rex Ryan comes out, and Rex Ryan says, he has this fake explosion about, you should be ashamed of yourself. If I know it, everybody around the league knows it. You need to get in the front of the classroom, and you need to be in the front. He's sitting there with his arms crossed. He's always talking and running his mouth, right? So then there's pictures that come out where it actually shows Shedeur Sanders. As a matter of fact, go watch the Ultimate Browns. I break this down eloquently on the Ultimate Browns, where I'm saying, oh, here he is in the front row right here. Here he is in the front row right here. Here he is in the front row again, in all different types of meetings and different things with the Cleveland Browns. So he's basically saying to Rex Ryan and a lot of people in the media, if I say something, it's a problem. The week before, on ESPN Cleveland, they pointed out the fact that they didn't like the fact that Shedeur had a backwards hat on. A picture comes out with a backwards hat from Ben Roethlisberger.
Who didn't like it?
What do you mean?
Who said something?
Oh, this was on ESPN Cleveland. I believe it was Aaron.
Dillon has his press conference, right? And he drops this whole metaphor about a fire station. He's talking about doors being open, being ready to respond surgically, waiting for that phone call, basically saying he's been patient and prepared for this moment. Cool. Inspirational. Exactly what you'd want to hear from your new starting QB.
It's Shedeur.
This is exactly why I hate the media.
Oh, the media is to blame?
That's what I'm talking about. They always
No,
trying
the
to
fans
pin,
are to blame.
They trying to pin people against each other. This is ridiculous.
You guys don't. If you guys don't listen to rap music, you will never understand. Like, you know, they're like, is so and so dissing someone? You're like, no, them is just regular bars. These are regular bars.
Well, wait a second, Tyvis. How is the media to blame for this?
Who said that they put this was a shot at Shedeur?
Yeah, who was saying
Who
this,
said
Mike?
that?
I'll find a million Twitter accounts.
Were there
right
any
now.
media members saying this?
No, most. I think one did it. I think Acho did, but I'll double check on
Yes,
it.
yes.
Oh my
yeah, you
God.
Emmanuel Acho said that.
Hey, listen, Acho,
Is he out of his mind?
Hey, listen, Acho been going
got to
crazy.
stop.
He told Shady McCoy.
We got to stop this.
He
clip.
said if he wasn't black, he wouldn't act like that.
But immediately, and I mean the second those words left his mouth, people started running with this narrative that Dylan was taking shots at Shedeur Sanders. And listen, if you actually believe that, you need to check yourself, because that's the most ridiculous reach I've heard all season. Dylan Gabriel is talking about his own journey, his own readiness, his own preparation. The man even said, "I've always been ready." That's confidence in himself, not a diss track aimed at the third-string quarterback.
If he's truly heard that Shedeur Sanders is not working hard enough behind the scenes, okay, then if that's true, and I don't know that it is, but if it is, then there's fair to be some criticism, but his criticism was way over the top, in my opinion. Anybody saying that Dylan Gabriel was taking a shot at Shedeur Sanders with his comments is an idiot. And those people have their own agendas too. Anybody say, we talk about media members having agendas, anybody saying Dylan Gabriel was taking a shot at Shedeur Sanders, you have an agenda.
I've never heard.
That's the most absurd thing. There was zero he said in there. I don't even understand what he possibly said there that you could take as a shot at Shedeur.
He said perfect timing, and one of Shedeur's songs is called Perfect Timing.
Oh my God, come on. Give me a break.
See?
Give me a break.
That's reach gone. I'm almost there. Let me reach for it.
And while, yes, you know, I think Shedeur, listen, I don't like what Shedeur did yesterday. I don't like it. I think he's shown a lot of maturity overall since he's been here.
But here's what the media does, man. They need drama. They need controversy. Because a straightforward Dylan Gabriel is the starter story doesn't get the clicks. But Dylan Gabriel fires shots at Deion's son. Now you've got engagement. Now you've got debate shows. Now you've got Twitter going crazy. And that's exactly what happened. Now, before we get to Shedeur's legendary response, we got to talk about what's been happening to this kid since he got to Cleveland. Because this miming moment, it didn't come out of nowhere. This was the culmination of months of nonsense. Let's run through the receipts real quick. First, there was the backwards hat controversy. Yeah, you heard that right. ESPN Cleveland actually had people on air criticizing Shedeur for wearing a backwards hat. A backwards hat. You know who else wore backwards hats? Tom Brady, Matt Stafford, Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Famers and Super Bowl champions. But when Shedeur does it, suddenly it's a problem. Suddenly it's unprofessional. Suddenly it shows he's not taking things seriously. Then you had the kicker situation. Shedeur goes up to comfort his teammate after a missed kick. Being a good teammate, showing leadership, exactly what you want from a quarterback. And people on Twitter said he was just trying to get camera time. Are you kidding me? The man can't even console a teammate without it being twisted into some narcissistic flex? And here's where it gets really frustrating, bro. When Shedeur's quiet and stays in the background, they complain he's not showing leadership. When he speaks up and says he believes he's the best quarterback in the league, which is exactly the mentality every elite QB has, they call him arrogant and cocky. When he wears a backwards hat, it's unprofessional. When he comforts a teammate, it's attention-seeking. So, what's he supposed to do? That's the point. There is no right answer when people have already made up their minds about you. And that's exactly what Shedeur realized. Now enter Rex Ryan. Oh boy, Rex Ryan. The same Rex Ryan who never won a Super Bowl. The same Rex Ryan who coached the Jets and Bills into mediocrity. The same Rex Ryan who's now making a living talking on TV instead of coaching. This man goes on air and says, and I quote, "You should be ashamed of yourself if I know what everybody around the league knows." He's talking about Shedeur allegedly sitting in the back of meetings with his arms crossed, not engaged, not paying attention. Rex is painting this picture of a lazy, entitled kid who thinks he's too good to put in the work. And here's the problem with that. It's a lie. It's been proven to be a lie. Go watch the Ultimate Browns coverage. They broke this down perfectly. There are pictures, multiple pictures, of Shedeur Sanders in the front row of meetings. Front row, engaged, paying attention, taking notes, doing everything you'd want a young quarterback to do. So where did Rex Ryan get his information? Who are these mysterious people around the league who told him Shedeur's not working? Nobody. That's who. Because it's easier to push a narrative than to check facts. And you know what narrative Rex is pushing? The same narrative that's been used against black quarterbacks for decades. The lazy narrative. The doesn't want to study narrative. The relies on athleticism but doesn't have the football IQ narrative. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel gets called a supercomputer. He gets praised for his mental processing. Nobody questions his work ethic. Nobody questions his character. And let me be clear, Dillon deserves that praise. He's earned it. But why does Shedeur get the opposite treatment when the evidence shows he's putting in just as much work? So now we get to the moment everyone's talking about. The Browns announced Dillon Gabriel as the starter. Shedeur walks into his media session, and the reporters start asking him questions. Questions about how he feels. Questions about Dillon. Questions about his development. Questions, and Shedeur? He just starts miming, moving his mouth with no sound coming out, just silently mouthing words while looking directly at these reporters. And then he goes off. This is exactly why I hate the media. The media is to blame for what I'm talking about. They always trying to pin people against each other. This is ridiculous. You guys don't. If you guys don't listen to rap music, you will never understand. They're like, is so-and-so dissing someone? You're like, no, them are just regular bars. These are regular bars. B-R-O. The energy in that room had to be electric. Shedeur just called out the entire game. He basically said, y'all are trying to create beef where there is none. Y'all are trying to make me the villain. Y'all are putting words in Dillon's mouth. And I'm not playing along anymore. And he didn't stop there. When someone asked him another question, he just kept miming, moving his lips, no sound, just proving his point that no matter what he says, it's going to be twisted. So why even speak? Think about the brilliance of that move. If he gives a normal answer, I'm happy for Dillon. I'm going to keep working. The headline becomes, Shedeur Sanders refuses to admit Dillon is better. If he shows any frustration, yeah, it's tough being third string. The headline becomes, Shedeur Sanders jealous of Dillon Gabriel's Maidreborn on Fort success. If he's too confident, I know my time is coming. The headline becomes, Shedeur Sanders shows lack of respect for starter Dillon Gabriel. He literally can't win, so he chose to expose the entire circus instead. And honestly, that's one of the most savage things I've seen a player do in a press conference. No yelling, no arguing, just pure, calculated exposure of the media's agenda. One of the hosts in that transcript said it perfectly. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. At the end of the day, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to move my mouth. Because here's the point. You're asking me all these questions. Go ask Dillon Gabriel some questions, bro. He's the starting quarterback. And that's facts. Why is the third-string quarterback getting more media attention than the actual starter? Because Shedeur's name gets clicks. Because Deion Sanders' son generates controversy. Because the media can monetize the drama around him. Now, I want to be fair here. Not everyone in that discussion agreed with what Shedeur did. One of the hosts said he didn't like it. He thought it was immature. He said Shedeur should have stayed professional and just answered the questions like he's been doing all along. And I respect that take. I really do. But here's my counter. At what point does staying professional become enabling the disrespect? At what point do you stop turning the other cheek and actually stand up for yourself? Shedeur has been nothing but professional since he got to Cleveland. He's answered every question. He's supported his teammates. He's worked his tail off. And what has that gotten him? More criticism, more narratives, more disrespect. Rex Ryan called him lazy with zero evidence. ESPN Cleveland criticized his hat. Twitter accused him of being a camera hog for comforting a teammate. And now they're trying to manufacture beef with Dylan Gabriel over a fire station metaphor. So yeah, maybe the miming was a little petty. Maybe it wasn't the most mature response. But you know what? Sometimes you gotta let people know you see the game they're playing. Sometimes you gotta call out the hypocrisy. And that's exactly what Shedeur did. Here's what makes this even more interesting. After all the drama with Rex Ryan, after all the lazy accusations and the arms crossed in the back of the room lies, the Browns organization probably pulled Shedeur aside. They probably said, "Hey man, you gotta chill a little bit. Just keep your head down. Let your play do the talking." And Shedeur probably thought, "Okay, bet. You want me to chill? I'll chill. I won't say anything." And that's exactly what he did. He mimed. He showed up to the press conference like they wanted, but he didn't give them the sound bites they were fishing for. It's technically compliance while being completely non-compliant at the same time. It's genius, honestly. Now let's talk about the double standard for a second, because this is important. Someone in that transcript mentioned Tim Tebow, and I think that's actually a perfect comparison. Tim Tebow was everywhere during his NFL career. Media couldn't stop talking about him. His fans were intense. The coverage was absolutely insane for a backup quarterback who couldn't really play at an elite level. And you know what? Some people found that annoying. Some people were frustrated that Tebow got so much attention when there were better quarterbacks getting ignored. But nobody accused Tim Tebow of being lazy. Nobody questioned his work ethic. Nobody said he was sitting in the back of meetings with his arms crossed. With Shedeur, you've got a similar level of celebrity and attention, but instead of getting annoying praise, he's getting annoying criticism. The attention is the same, but the tone is completely different. And we gotta ask ourselves why that is. Completely different. And we gotta ask ourselves why that is. The transcript brought up something that made me think. One of the hosts said, "This trope that you're lazy and you don't want to do stuff has been a trope on quarterbacks of color for years. When you start throwing out that you don't have the cognitive ability, you're not smart." And they juxtapose that with the guy who's saying you're a supercomputer, but you're lazy and you don't want to put the work in, then you have a problem. That's the part that should make everyone uncomfortable, because it's true. How many times have we seen black quarterbacks get labeled as athletic but not cerebral? How many times have we heard they rely on their legs too much, or don't study the playbook? Meanwhile, their white counterparts get called gym rats and students of the game for doing the exact same preparation. I'm not saying everyone criticizing Shedeur is racist. That's not the point. But I am saying there are old, tired narratives that keep getting recycled. And maybe, just maybe, we should examine why those narratives keep getting attached to certain players and not others. Shedeur Sanders has shown up to every practice. He's thrown extra after every session, so much that his arm was sore for weeks. He's been at Baldwin Wallace putting in work. He's been in the front row of meetings. He's studied the playbook. He's done everything a backup quarterback is supposed to do. And yet Rex Ryan, without evidence, without proof, without anything concrete, goes on national television and calls him lazy. And when Shedeur responds by miming in a press conference, suddenly he's the problem? Nah, man, that's backwards. Here's what I think is going to happen moving forward. Shedeur's gonna tuck himself away like one of the hosts suggested. He made his point. The world saw what he did. The message was sent. Now he's gonna get back to work, keep his head down, and wait for his opportunity. Because here's the thing about Shedeur Sanders, and this is what separates him from just another backup quarterback. He's built for moments like this. He's the son of Deion Sanders. He grew up in the spotlight. He's dealt with criticism and pressure his entire life. You think a little media drama is gonna break him? Please! If anything, this fuels him. Every doubt, every criticism, every he's not ready take. It all goes in the tank. And when he finally gets his shot on the field, whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else, he's gonna play with a chip on his shoulder, the size of Texas. But here's the question I want to leave you with for part one. Was Shedeur wrong for the miming? Or was that the only way to make people realize what's been happening to him this whole time? Because staying quiet didn't work. Being professional didn't work. Answering questions honestly didn't work. So maybe, just maybe, exposing the game was the smartest move he could have made. Drop a comment right now. Team Shedeur or Team Rex Ryan? And be honest, if this was any other third-string QB, would the media even be asking these questions? Let me know below because we're diving even deeper in part 2, and you're not going to want to miss what comes next. All right, welcome back to part 2. And if you're just jumping in, go watch part 1 first, because we're about to get deep into why Shedeur Sanders' miming moment was actually way more calculated than people realize. And more importantly, what this means for his future in Cleveland and beyond. So let's pick up where we left off. The miming happened. The internet exploded. Rex Ryan's sitting somewhere probably confused about why he's catching strays. And the media? They're doing exactly what Shedeur predicted they'd do, making this about him instead of the actual story, which is Dillon Gabriel being named the starter. But here's what most people are missing. That miming wasn't just frustration. That wasn't just a young kid being petty or immature. That was a chess move. And I'm about to explain why. Think about it like this. Shedeur's in an impossible position, right? He's the third-string quarterback on a team that's trying to figure out its future. He's got a famous last name, which means every single thing he does is under a microscope. And he's been getting criticized for literally everything. Talking too much, not talking enough, wearing a hat backwards, comforting a teammate, sitting in meetings. The man can't breathe without someone having an opinion about it. So what does he do? He shows the world exactly what the media game is. He mimes his answers, gives them nothing, and then calls them out directly. This is exactly why I hate the media. They always trying to pin people against each other. Now, some people said that was immature. One of the hosts in that transcript said he didn't like it. Thought Shedeur should have stayed professional. And I get that perspective, I really do. In a perfect world, you just keep your head down, do your work, and let your play speak for itself. But here's the reality. Shedeur's been doing that. He's been professional. He's answered questions with maturity. He supported Dillon Gabriel publicly. And what happened? Rex Ryan still went on TV and called him lazy with zero evidence. ESPN Cleveland still criticized his hat. People still questioned his work ethic, despite photographic evidence of him being engaged in meetings and practicing extra. So at some point, you gotta flip the script. And that's exactly what he did. He made the media the story instead of letting them make him the story. And honestly, that takes a level of awareness most 22-year-olds don't have. One of the hosts made a brilliant point during that discussion. You can mention somebody's name, and when you mention his name and he's on a thumbnail, your joints is going to go up 50-60%, right? And then at the same time, you still want those people clicking on him because you know he has a fan base that's going to go run and watch it. But then you tell that same fan base that they're in a cult, and then you also tell them that you need to just be quiet and don't say nothing because your time will come. That right there is the whole game. The media needs Shedeur Sanders. They need his name for clicks. They need his face for thumbnails. They need the controversy because it drives engagement. But they also want to control the narrative. They want him to be quiet, humble, and wait his turn while they profit off talking about him. So when Shedeur mimes and calls out that double standard, he's basically saying, I see what you're doing. You're using my name to make money while simultaneously disrespecting me. And I'm not playing along anymore. That's powerful, man. That's not immaturity. That's strategy. Now let's address the Dillon Gabriel situation one more time, because the fact that people tried to turn that into beef is insane. Dillon talked about a fire station. He talked about waiting for the right moment. He used the phrase, perfect timing. And people immediately ran to social media saying he was taking shots at Shedeur because Shedeur has a song called Perfect Timing. Are you serious right now? That's the reach of the century. Dillon Gabriel doesn't even know what songs Shedeur has. The man's preparing to start for an NFL team. You think he's keeping tabs on the third-string QB's music catalog? Come on, bro. But that's exactly the problem. The media manufactures drama where none exists. They need conflict. They need tension. Because Dillon Gabriel earns starting job is boring. But Dillon Gabriel disses Shedeur Sanders in press conference. Now we've got something. And you know who suffers from that? Both of them. Dillon has to deal with people thinking he's taking unnecessary shots. Shedeur has to deal with people thinking there's locker room tension. And the Browns have to deal with manufactured controversy, distracting from their actual football goals. That's why Shedeur's response was so perfect. He called it out. If you guys don't listen to rap music, you will never understand. They're like, is so-and-so dissing someone? You're like, no, them are just regular bars. These are regular bars. He's saying, stop looking for beef where there isn't any. Stop twisting words. Stop creating narratives. And if you're gonna keep doing it, I'm just gonna mime because my actual words don't matter to you anyway. Now, was everyone cool with that approach? Nope. Even in that transcript, you had people who thought he should have handled it differently. And that's fine. That's fair criticism. But let me ask you this. What should he have said? I'm happy for Dillon. I'm working hard. My time will come. We've heard that 100 times, and people still questioned his work ethic. I believe I'm the best QB in the league. He said that before, and people called him arrogant. I'm just focused on getting better. People would say he's dodging the question or not showing. Confidence. There is no right answer when people have already decided who you are. And I think Shedeur realized that. So instead of playing the game, he exposed it. Here's what I think happens next, and this is where it gets interesting. Shedeur's gonna go quiet. He made his statement. He drew his line in the sand. Now he's gonna disappear into the work. No more press conferences where he gives the media ammunition. No more quotes that can be twisted. Just practice, preparation, and waiting for his moment. Practice, preparation, and waiting for his moment. And when that moment comes, whether it's because of injury, performance, or opportunity, he's gonna be ready. Because say what you want about Shedeur Sanders, but the kid can play. He wouldn't have been drafted if he couldn't. The Browns wouldn't keep him around if he wasn't showing something in practice. But here's the twist that nobody's talking about. This whole situation might have been the best thing that could have happened to Shedeur. Why? Because now he knows exactly who's in his corner and who's not. He knows which media members have agendas. He knows which narratives are going to follow him. And most importantly, he knows he can't rely on being professional and quiet to change people's minds. One of the hosts said something that really stuck with me. What you do now is you say, okay, log that away. Now when I get my opportunity, it's time to go. That's it, right there. Shedeur's logging all this away. Every criticism, every doubt, every Rex Ryan comment, every manufactured controversy. It's all fuel. And when he finally gets on that field in a real game situation, he's gonna play with the kind of edge that only comes from being doubted. Think about the great quarterbacks who had chips on their shoulders. Tom Brady, 6th-round pick. Russell Wilson, told he was too short. Patrick Mahomes, people questioned if his arm talent would translate. They all used the doubt as motivation. They all proved people wrong. Shedeur's building that same mentality right now. And honestly, the media's helping him do it. Every unfair criticism is another rep in his mental gym. Every manufactured controversy is another reason to prove them wrong. Now let's address the elephant in the room that the transcript touched on, the racial component. One of the hosts brought up how the lazy narrative has been used against black quarterbacks for decades. And before anyone gets defensive, let's just look at the facts. How many times have we heard black quarterbacks described as athletic but not cerebral? How many times have we heard they need to study the playbook more or improve their football IQ? Meanwhile, their counterparts get called gym rats and students of the game for the same preparation. The host said it perfectly. When you start throwing out that you don't have the cognitive ability, you're not smart, and they juxtapose that with the guy who's saying you're a supercomputer. You're a super contributor, but you're lazy and you don't want to put the work in, then you have a problem. Dylan Gabriel gets called a supercomputer. Shedeur gets called lazy, despite both of them putting in work, despite both of them studying, despite both of them preparing. The language is different. The narratives are different. And we gotta ask ourselves why. I'm not saying everyone who criticizes Shedeur is racist. That's not the point. But I am saying there are old, worn-out tropes that keep resurfacing, and maybe it's time we examine why those tropes keep getting attached to certain players. Rex Ryan had no evidence when he said, "Everybody around the league knows. Shedeur's not working." None. But he said it anyway because that narrative fit the story he wanted to tell. And that's the problem. Here's my final thought on all this. And then I want to hear from you in the comments. Shedeur Sanders is in a unique position. He's got the talent, the pedigree, the work ethic, and the mental toughness. But he's also got the spotlight, the criticism, and the constant scrutiny. That miming moment was him drawing a line. It was him saying, "I'm not playing your game anymore. You're going to talk about me regardless, so I might as well control what I give you." Some people will call that immature. Some will call it genius. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think it was a frustrated young man who's tired of being disrespected making a statement. Was it the perfect response? Maybe not. But was it understandable? Absolutely. And here's the real question moving forward. When Shedeur finally gets his shot, and he will get his shot, how's he gonna respond? Is he gonna ball out and shut everyone up? Or is the pressure gonna be too much? My money's on him balling out, because everything I've seen from this kid says he's built different. The son of Deion Sanders doesn't crumble under pressure. He thrives in it. And all this controversy, all this drama, all these doubts, they're just setting the stage for one hell of a comeback story. So here's what I want from you. Drop a comment right now. Do you think Shedeur was right to mime and call out the media? Or should he have stayed professional and kept his head down? And be honest, if this was any other third-string quarterback not named Sanders, would any of this be a story? Because at the end of the day, that's what this is really about. The name, the attention, the spotlight. And whether Shedeur's gonna let that break him or use it to become great. My prediction? He's gonna use it. And when he does, all these critics are gonna act like they supported him all along. Remember this moment. Remember the miming. Remember Rex Ryan calling him lazy with zero proof. Because when Shedeur's under center leading a game-winning drive, all of this is gonna look real different. If you made it this far, hit that subscribe button because we're covering every step of Shedeur's journey. The highs, the lows, the controversy, and eventually, the redemption. Don't miss it. Redemption. Don't miss it.